Why, hello there. Thanks so much for joining us for the Long Comics Book Club, a bi-weekly podcast about long comics, also known as manga and graphic novels. My name is Shane, and I'm the older brother. I'm joined by Spence, the younger brother.
I think the clever question should be, did you get murdered by Neil Gaiman today?
I did not.
There was no death by Neil Gaiman?
No, it wasn't that he murdered me today. It was that he killed me slowly with poisoning in my coffee.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, if you had to be killed by Neil Gaiman, how would you die?
There is the question.
I guess maybe, yeah, I think it's slow poisoning.
Yeah.
Because boy, I think that's an apt description to this graphic novel that we're going to be talking today. Because of course, we are discussing Death by Neil Gaiman today. The title that I thought was hilarious 2 weeks ago, and now I find a little bit more upsetting, which may set a little bit of a different tone when I keep on repeating it throughout this episode. If you're new to the podcast, thanks so much for joining us. What we're going to do for the first half of the show is talk about the long comic we read over the past 2 weeks, which again is Death by Neil Gaiman, which is written by Neil Gaiman, of course, but it is penciled by Chris Bachelot. Well, there's a bunch of artists on it. The main thing is the Neil Gaiman is the main one who crosses all of these stories, as this is a collection of stories, the centerpiece of which is Death, the High Cost of Living, but there's a couple of other side quests, let's call them, that are also included as part of the collection that we'll also be discussing as well, all of which will fall under this beautiful umbrella of talking about death by Neil Gaiman. We're going to give our reactions, takeaways, discussion points, book club things, and for the second part of the show, we'll be chatting about some of the other visual media we've consumed recently that will be much lighter and happier. To make sure you avoid some of the other To make sure you avoid spoilers, we'll include time codes in the episode description. Of course, we'll end the show with Spence introducing the long comic for the next podcast, which will come out on August 30th. To be notified when the podcast is out, you can follow our Blue Sky or Instagram at Long Comics Book Club. We also have all these links on our link tree, and one of those links is to VesperiaComics.com, because Spence, of course, is the owner and proprietor of Vesperia Comics, not just an online store, but physically located at 1935 West Broadway in Vancouver, British Columbia. Spence, what's been happening at the shop?
Well, the big one was, as we alluded to in the last episode, we were halfway through. We are now finished. The Anime Revolution it was a massive success for the store. Had a great time. Met a lot of people. And yeah.
And you're going back again next year. So
yes, absolutely.
If you missed out on Anime Revolution 2025, good news. There's going to be an Anime Revolution 2026, at which Vesperia Comics will again have a booth.
Yes.
And you had a pretty primo location.
Yes.
In the center hall.
Yeah, just right when we enter, just off to the right. So good. And with like a wall to our back too, which was nice. So when we kept dropping things behind the shelves, they didn't land on someone else.
Phew, you didn't have to stress about it. Main question: how's the food at the conference?
I don't know. You don't eat con food. You go outside because the Vancouver Convention Center. There's like a mall food court half a block away from the Vancouver Convention Center.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's your pro tip. Your pro tip at the start of the episode. If you're going to a convention, don't eat con food. They charge like $7 for half a sandwich. Go somewhere nearby. Get food for cheaper or for better, but
so not like mall food court food is like great, but it's also like
it's better than a hot dog that's been rotating on the same grill for 5 hours.
Exactly.
That's certainly, what is that called? Captive audience. It's very much the kind of con food vibe that you get. So
people who don't want to leave, but it's not hard to leave.
It's true. It's important to leave, in fact.
Get outside, because good God, I was standing up talking to people, and that was like my one. This is like as much as it was a great con and all that, it was also like the least enjoyable con I've ever been, because I've been to Anime Revolution myself many times, but this time, nope, had to be at the booth entire time.
But he loved meeting all of you. So if you were there and you're not listening, he was thrilled to meet you, but he was jealous.
Yes.
Yeah. He was sadly trapped, and man, part of you probably died inside. Speaking of which, speaking of
segue.
Wow, what a beautiful transition. Perfectly flawless. And so we're gonna chat about Death by Neil Gaiman, which is carried by Vesperia Comics. So if you wanna read along, in case you haven't had a chance yet and want to read Death by Neil Gaiman, swing by Vesperia Comics or go onto the online store and you can pick it up today. So, before we get into Death by Neil Gaiman, if you have not read it yet, um, we're not going to likely be discussing some of the trigger warning related things, but it's my trigger warning for Death by Neil Gaiman is that this is about death.
Yeah.
It's not handled in a light, fun way. It's handled in a philosophical, brutally real way. So,
Yes, which is actually kind of the interesting part about it because the character of Death is a lot. Yeah, well, we're getting into the story, but we'll get into that later.
trigger warning. Read this book at your own caution.
Yeah,
Prepare
basically
yourself.
all forms of death are
Yeah,
involved.
if there's any kind of individual or creature or age that you find upsetting to be involved with death or a relationship, if there's something that you're like, ooh, that would be really sad if that situation was related to death, don't read this. Don't roll the dice. Punches are not pulled in this
No,
graphic novel is the way that I will describe that. And so if you haven't read the book yet and you want to avoid spoilers, this is your time to look at the time codes, jump ahead, maybe save yourself a little bit of sadness. But if you haven't read the book, you're ready for the emotional roller coaster discussion. Uh, Hang on, here we go. And maybe it'll help you decide if you're interested in reading the actual true graphic novel or not. And if you have read it, ooh, well, we're going to share our thoughts and we'd love to hear from you too. If you want to go jump onto, I don't know, our Instagram, our YouTube, or TikTok, or uh, Blue Sky, go find us on any of those social media platforms. Let me know what your thoughts are. We don't hear back from our audience too much, but I'd be curious. So sound off wherever you choose to land. But without further ado, let's discuss Death by Neil Gaiman. Suspense, I think we already talked about, I think a lot of these, we don't need to discuss why you chose them anymore, because these are the big heavy hitter name people that you're
yes,
selecting.
but I'll explain this one a little bit because
Yeah, why?
Sandman is like the like set one of the centerpiece of like the Vertigo revolution that happened with comic books. So Vertigo's like imprint that DC makes. They actually like stopped it for a little bit, but then brought it back of like creator owned um like mature comic books that like aren't necessarily about superheroes. Fun fact about that: Death is the Sandman is set in the DC universe, but for the most part, most of them are. Yeah, they're not like standard comic books, and then Death is kind of like the centerpiece of all those. Like it even predates Vertigo. Like when they launched Vertigo, part of it was like Death's gonna Sandman's
Wait,
gonna
you
be
mean
part of
Sandman?
Vertigo. Yeah.
Okay, so Sandman is the centerpiece of Vertigo.
Yes.
Okay, you said the word imprint earlier. I didn't know what that meant in that context.
Oh, it's just like a sub label they put on DC Comics to let you
Okay,
know what it is.
got it. So
Yeah.
Vertigo is part of DC,
Yeah.
around which was Sandman always designed to be the centerpiece, or did that just end up
No,
being?
so they made Sandman. It was super successful, and then I don't know the exact time because it was very early that they made Vertigo. It's like 14 or something like that. One of the very early Sandman comics was the first one to be part of Vertigo,
Hmm.
and then so I don't know the exact thing, but then when they launched Vertigo, Sandman was one of the like the centerpiece of
Dispense the human Wikipedia in full force.
it. Yes.
Okay. So Sandman, does he involve himself in DC crossovers? Do we see
No,
Sandman v
not at all.
Batman?
So that's one of the fun
Okay.
things. Like early Sandman was like explicitly set in the DC universe, and then as time went on, they made it less and less the case.
Hmm.
Because,
Oh
but like,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
now we can get into the
like
things. The
Lady Metamorpho,
Metaphisto. Yeah.
yeah, because Metamorpho is the classic one, and this is one of the separate, like the female version of them. That is a DC Comics character.
Yeah, okay, I recognized that. And so I was like, whoa, that's kind of confusing because I didn't
Yeah.
think there was any superhero crossover. Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then like a person makes a joke about Batman, and it's like there's supposed to be like specifically. So this is a world where Batman exists for that joke to work.
right. Right. So, okay, interesting. And so I assume also Neil Gaiman must have been one of the people who's like, I am not having Sandman fight Scarecrow or something.
Yeah. And like, because also I don't know the exact. Neil Gaiman owns some percentage of Sandman, so they probably have to pay him every time they want to use
I
Sandman.
would hope so.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of characters they don't like. A lot of famous comic. That's a whole controversy in itself. But a lot of like famous characters aren't owned by their creators. Like
Oh,
like if you made, I don't know, Killer Croc or something, you probably don't own the rights to Killer Croc.
can they Neil Gaiman could re-release Sandman and call it Sandman Neil's version? That's a
Yeah,
Taylor Swift reference for those not listening in 2020 and around the 2024 2025 era. But hey, there you go, dropping era. There's
yeah,
a
but
second Taylor Swift reference.
yeah, and I guess once again that was only half of my explanation, and then the second half of my explanation is death, the high cost of living, is like pretty easily this like the number one story that stands on its own. Like a lot of Sandman stuff is pretty standalone. But Death, the High Cost of Living is
Hmm.
like a very good one. What I wanted to do, but then it's only been really currently the only way to get it is through this big fancy multi pack with lots of other stories. So I guess we're doing all those stories.
Yeah, we're throwing them all in there. We're including them all. So we'll chat about each of the well, some of them are extremely short, is what's
Yeah. So
interesting.
so like
And
so the first two, the story about just like Sandman and so Dream and Death just like walking around New York and like
mhm.
philosophizing, and then the one with the Metamorpho, those were just issues of Sandman.
Mm. Yeah, I was thinking that that was a really interesting way that they sequenced it because I think even just the sequencing in the collection is worth noting. Just because it's sort of like the first one is the one that seems the most reliant on understanding the Sandman narrative because they're talking about Sandman losing his
Yeah.
stuff and Sandman being upset.
Yes.
Then the Metamorpho one doesn't really make sense unless you're sort of like aware of superhero stuff. And even then, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. But it's the one that sort of reminded me this is based in superhero universe.
Yeah.
And then you have one that's like super heavy art styling. Uh, and then you get it to death, the high cost of living. So I thought that was really interesting that the first three all sort of serve separate purposes. I don't know if they did that intentionally. Were those already the sequence? No, that wouldn't have been the sequence that those came out.
What would have been the sequence? There would be there's a lot of space between them.
Yeah.
So like the first volume, like the first story we read, that's like the cap off to the end of the first arc of Sandman. Like if you buy the graphic novel though, of Sandman, the first volume ends with that story with Death.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So that makes sense then. Just sort of like it sort of marks a certain point in time
Yes.
and introduces the character. Is that sort of when then in the Sandman books, that's when you're introduced to death
Yes.
as
So
well?
that
Yeah, it
is
would
the
be.
first
Okay.
appearance of Death.
Right. So
Also,
that
that's actually the first appearance of any of the other Endless. So you've been
oh
like there've been references to the Endless before that point, but that's the first time you meet
hmm
another Endless other than Dream.
right. Okay. Yeah. So if you're man, how would you describe the plot to this? Just essentially that there's these like seven gods and it's about
Yeah.
their
Well, the point
experiences in
is,
relation to humanity.
yeah, it's like they're not even gods. They're like the next level up from gods. Like three
So,
personifications of like this, like almost like the seven fundamental forces of our universe. They're like seven people who
hmm,
control them.
yeah.
Because like they
Okay.
meet gods, they talk to gods, and gods are like below them.
Oh, interesting.
'Cause, Like,
Okay.
like they can make reference to that in Metamorpho one about how
Oh, Raw.
Ra, yeah, it was talking
Yeah.
like Death talked to Ra.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Shout out to Egyptian god of the sun, Ra. Uh,
Yeah, which is actually another point about you mentioning how Dream never would like punch Scarecrow. It's like they're so far beyond punching people, the Endless.
right. Yeah. Is he gonna fight this psychiatrist gone rogue while he's talking to the literal sun god of Egypt?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's sort of different power scaling going on in this book.
yeah,
Uh, but I mean, I think the title is eye-catching. Death. It's about death as a character and as a concept. Um, what do you? And so we talked about the first three, sort of being like the narrative cap off, the metamorpho story. There's the weird like heavy art one. That's pretty like high level. then I think it gets into the high cost of living. But then how do we feel about ending off on the weird Victorian time travel
Yeah,
one?
I legitimately forgot about that part until I read it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also technically it ends with the AIDS BSA,
Yeah.
but
Well,
that's like after all the cover. Like that's
yeah,
truly a
that's all the cover.
bonus.
I think
That's
that
after like the
one,
covers and stuff. Like normally it's like oh that's truly a bonus. I think that's just yeah.
that's just there. Yeah, I did not read that in depth. I skimmed that one.
Yeah.
Because it's very much an informatic, but no. So ignoring the AIDS PSA at the very end.
Yeah.
Um, what is, yeah, why do you think they wouldn't just end on the high cost of living? Because that one ends on a really good note. And then
Yeah.
it gets into,
So I think it's also they released them like they're in the order they were chronologically came out. So which because there's the high cost of living, but then there was also the time of your life.
yeah.
And that
And
one's a little
why,
harder too, because that's a sequel to I forgot about this part. That's a sequel to one of the stories in Sandman. So like
run that by me again.
Foxglove and what's her name? The other her wife.
Hazel? Is it Hazel?
Yeah,
No.
Hazel. Yeah, or is it Hazel? I think it's Hazel.
We
Well,
both
okay.
immediately start Googling things.
Yeah.
It might be Hazel. The reason I pause is that that's my friend's dog's name.
Oh,
And I've been talking to my friend a lot. So it's like, did I just
yeah.
fully gloss over the fact that this woman has the same name as my friend's dog? Uh,
Yep, Hazel. Hazel Alvey and okay. You want to pick that up from
there we go. No, that's
yeah.
fine. We can, okay, there you go. So now I'm confused. So there's a
So there's
time jump?
well, it's basically that well actually I guess so Hazel and Foxglove are like two of the main characters in another. I think it's like the fourth volume of Sandman are two of the main characters. Like they have to go through like a whole odyssey basically during a storm. And so this is like the sequel starring them.
Wait, the entire thing of High Cost of Living is a sequel?
At the time of your life is a sequel.
Which part is the time of that?
So
Which
okay. So there's the three little main
hold on?
stories. Then there's the high cost of living, which is like the story about death when she's on comes to Earth for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then there's the next story, which is the time of your life, which is about this
Okay.
Foxglove the singer and about
Okay.
her kid, like her kid
Hmm.
being picked by death, but like can she go back to pick someone else for it?
Seven. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I had thought that all of that. I didn't realize there was any kind of a narrative break in there.
Okay.
So the way not knowing that, I don't think it took away from reading it at all because you can sort of piece together things because they do have little shots of flashback in there.
Right. And I guess you're right, because Foxglove and Hazel do appear in Death, the High Cost of Living.
Yeah, they make reference to that as well.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
had thought that it was all tied in together.
I know. So those were two separate miniseries that came out like a couple years apart from each
Whoa.
other.
Interesting. Okay. Well, they certainly work back to back.
Yeah.
And they're interesting in between. Okay. Whoa. My brain is now getting rattled. I think it's because the Foxglove and Hazel story is so heavy and intense and
Yes.
um very much the of this collection that I've read stood out the most. It's hard to imagine that that's not the centerpiece of this collection.
And like
Um,
honestly, it kind of is. It was just my pick. Like the one I wanted to do was the like much lighter in tone.
hmm,
Death, the High Cost
with
of
the
Living. Because
fun Russian dolls and
yeah,
finding
the
the
Russian
heart of
dolls.
Mad
And like, yes,
Hattie
there
and
there is death, and that's a big part of it. But it's
yeah,
like about this like being that like the universe, like the only characters that really die. Or I guess there's the one guy who's kind of a
Theo
jerk.
literally gets murdered in
Yeah, okay,
the
but the characters we care about, the one that dies, was like like
whoa,
a
poor Theo.
creation of the universe. It's like something that was literally created to die 24 hours after they existed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, but also what's interesting about that is that she's still occupying a girl, Dee Dee's body.
yeah, but they make reference to the
So
fact Dee Dee didn't exist before 24 before she was existed.
thought I thought she wait, she didn't. I thought she did exist, but that she was like going to die anyways.
It's okay. I guess that's kind of ambiguous because Death is mentioning at one point that like, oh, is this must have been my family? Like, oh, I don't think they existed when they're talking about her family all dying before.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just the universe creating a place for her to go. Yeah,
Ah,
which I
to
guess you're right.
occupy.
They don't actually answer whether that's just death.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of this is very philosophical, head
Yes. This is
heavy.
very easily the most philosophical thing we've done so far.
Yeah, which thinking back on the things that we've been able to discuss well and at length, the incredibly complex things are maybe not our forte, but we love a challenge here. Um, and this one is for sure a challenge. It was a challenge to read. I don't think because it was uh not enjoyable, but because it was heavy and it was intense. I would say of what we've read, this is the only thing I was not able to any degree marathon, nor would I recommend someone marathon. This is something that I had to read and sort of be like, I'm gonna take a good old break from this for a while. And come back to. I think just out of necessity because it's so philosophically dense.
Yes.
Um, like we were saying at the very start, it is brutal and doesn't pull punches. Uh, and it's very text heavy. Very, very text heavy.
Yes. Neil
Uh,
Gaiman is a text-heavy writer.
yeah. He's, he makes full use of the term writer for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, the art's great, but the memorable part of this is the writing and the story. Um, that's for sure. And so Sandman is massive. And so is obviously, therefore, Death by Neil Gaiman by proxy.
Yeah.
Why do you? Because if I was to guess what is the most popular graphic novel series, I wouldn't have pegged a very philosophical, adult only, like social conversation, graphic novelist as the winner of that. You would sort of assume in a media that is traditionally you imagine more related to like superheroes or like fantasy and imagine like constructing positive imagination, but don't really take the lead in that. But Sandman's the story. Why why do you think that's the case? What has been drawing people for it to see so this strikes me as something that should be an indie, extremely popular indie thing, not like mainstream goat.
Yeah. Like when they announced like about I think 10 years ago they announced Sandman was coming back and it was like the biggest announcement in comic books for like years. But yeah, why? I think it's just 'cause it's different. Especially in the time like this is like post Watchmen, post Dark Knight Returns. Like people realizing comic books could be like more than just good guy punches bad guy. And it was like truly took a thing that like yeah, that just like hit the zeitgeist at the right angle.
It can be a novel with pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the like goths were bit like that like goth subculture kind of thing was like a thing back in the like that era and that really picked up with the Sandman and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, right. Because wait, are they all goth?
Oh yeah. Well, like to some degree. Goths like Destiny is just a dude in a cloak and like Despair is covered in rats, but they're all pretty goth.
Yeah, that sounds pretty goth. Yeah. Um, well, and so we've been talking about a lot about sort of Sandman as a concept as a whole, but um, death specifically, I think that these are really interesting, challenging things to be navigating and tackling and sort of coming to terms with. Because it's interesting conceptually to imagine death as a hot goth girl,
Yeah.
uh, who
Which is
is
also the other interesting part about her is she's far and away the nicest, most like personable of the endless.
Hmm.
Like the rest of them are a whole lot more like Dream, and they're like detached and like they're like, how can mortals understand? Like mortals understand us, but not Death. Death's just like she like greets everyone she meets with a smile.
Hmm. She gets everything for free. And so what is it then? Why is death separate? What do you think is why is she being set apart as being the one that's not? Is it because she plays such more of a well, but they all play active parts in people's lives.
But I think it's part of it's I think it's like kind of comforting the idea. Like
Hmm.
what if Death wasn't a scary Grim Reaper with a scythe? What if Death just was like a happy girl not wearing an awk?
Yeah. What what then?
Yeah,
Yeah. Would you be a little bit happier to die if there was a
yeah.
what's the meme? Hot mommy goth girl?
Oh
What's
yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. Goth
I,
GF.
yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so she's.
Does the comic book Thanos's origin make more sense if it was in the DC universe versus the Marvel universe?
I have no idea what that means.
Okay. In the comic books, Thanos' reason why he destroys half the universe is he's trying to woo Death. Like he's in love with Death.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Thanos was secretly a DC character this
Yeah.
whole time. Oh, it makes more sense now. That's very funny. Uh, yeah, Death is a. I mean, what's great is that she does have a character. She's not just her personification. Um, she is playful, ambivalent, all-knowing, but curious. Um, sort of like ethereal and yet very real, super interesting to sort of see. Like, despite all the way she interacts, it always does feel like she's sort of like operating separately than the
Yeah.
other characters, which makes sense as well.
Yeah. Because she's always about like how she's everywhere at all time. Like, yes, she's stopping and talking to you, but everywhere around the world.
Hmm.
She's doing her duty. Like
Hmm.
which is actually a point they bring up in in the comics with the rest of the Endless. She's the most serious of them. She's the one who
Mm.
never like she never takes a break or anything like that, compared to some of
Hmm.
the others.
Oh,
That's a
right. No,
big
I think
point.
they talked about that, didn't they?
Right, because right you meet on the thing on the Ferris wheel you meet Destruction,
Yeah.
and Destruction is famously the least serious of the Endless. A big plot point of Sandman is Destruction just left 200 years ago and stopped doing his job.
Oh, he just pieced out
Yeah,
because he realized I don't really need to do anything.
yeah,
People just do this to themselves.
yeah, basically.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty easy working concept for making social commentaries when you're personifying all these high level uh, ideas. Um, but I mean, if other people have done it, certainly Neil Gaiman in this format is the one that has done it the best.
Yeah.
And so, how do you think he lands on the stories that he chooses to like? How do you? I mean, that's what's so interesting is that he's essentially saying, "What do I want to write about death?" And so, how do you choose what to write about? And so, what would you describe the high cost of living? What is that? That's about someone who sort of doesn't value their life, but only through learning more about death do they
Yeah.
realize that because death exists, it gives value to life, which is just such a heavy thing to be reading.
Yep. But yeah, it's the idea. It's like he meets a Death who knows she's only going to be there for 24 hours, but she gets to enjoy like even eating a hot dog's like the greatest thing she's done so far. It's
Hmm.
like that simple level of like finding the simple pleasures and stuff. And what does our life has our what meaning do we find in life?
Yeah, there has to be bad for there to be value to the good. Ugh, man, heavy, heavy.
Don't worry, next week we're doing a lot less next
We're
time.
turning down the brutalness and the yeah. Um, and then and I mean, I think there's just a lot of weight to all of it. And so then you have what did you say the next one was after the high cost of living?
The time of our lives.
The time of our lives. Like that's sort of a commentary on like what do you put
Oh,
value
sorry,
in?
the time of your life. My
The time of
mistake.
your life. Oh, there you go. But also again, it's like how the presence of death makes you realize what's important to you. and like the build rebuilds the relationships that you have. Uh, Again, very heavy. That one especially so. That one's
Oh
a
yeah.
very
Yeah.
tricky read to have for sure. Um, but I mean it and like it kind of all of these end on a very bittersweet note as well, which is very interesting.
Yes.
And there's like your it's also very interesting because the stakes never feel very high because you're it's at the same time they're extremely high, but they're
Yeah.
also not super high because death is immortal. And so and the fact that you're sort of talking about how all of these people are capable of dying just sort of takes away all of the potential like worst case scenario stakes. And yet
Yeah.
so what's interesting then is if you remove the highest possible stakes, you can then just really focus on the messaging, uh, and not so much worried about this maybe the conflict is at hand as much as why is that conflict happening.
Yeah. And it's like death is very much not the protagonist of the time of your life. Like
Mhm.
she's the central form of like all the stories together, but like, and I guess the first story she's pretty. I guess it's kind of dream, but like she's never like the lone protagonist to any of this.
Mhm.
Like she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't. The fact she's never in any danger or anything like that. Like it's still we got
Mhm.
other characters to fit that. Uh,
That's true. I guess
yeah,
just because death is omnipresent in the stories is what removes the stake, which is funny because it should increase the stakes, but because she's such a peaceful presence, it kind of removes it.
yeah,
Um, which is just very interesting. And so one of the story, I mean, those were also very interesting that there was a supernatural. There's always supernatural aspects, but to each of them, each of these stories also has an additional level of like supernatural beyond just the immortals. You have like Mad Hattie, who's lived for
yeah,
250 years. You have,
yeah. Which, for the record, she is a character from the Hellblazer comic series.
there you go.
Yeah,
And
The-
so,
the- the-
hey, there
the-
were
yeah.
crossovers.
There is crossovers, but
Yes, you're right.
Hellblazer is also another one that's like kind of in the DC universe. Now they're doing it a whole lot more, but there was a time like circa 2005 they're like, yeah, technically Hellblazer's set in the DC
Hmm,
universe, but
we guess so. We'll
yeah.
accept him if we have to.
Yeah, I guess so. Hellblazer is the Constantine. Do you ever see that Keanu Reeves movie from like 2005?
I did not, but I am aware of it.
Yeah, so that's what that based on that one. So the
Oh,
Constantine, the
this is
con artist who plays against heaven and hell.
huh.
And Mad Hattie's one of the people he constantly talks to.
Oh, well, that's kind of interesting. And then there's the guy who also has lived for like 100 years, or also is immortal.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
like,
sure about him. I think he's in some other things, but yeah,
yeah,
the
he was
the
confusing.
the
And then,
blind guy.
yeah, and then that foxglove casts a magic spell to be able to like enter into the realm of death. There's all these different ways that they sort of intersect with the mystical, which is interesting that it's not just death herself, but that the each of these has like a sort of supernatural element otherwise to gently separate it from reality. Not fully, but gently lightly. Um and each of them, yeah, certainly has their own standalone stories. They're interesting. I'm glad that we read it as a collection. I think that that gives the most uh, sort of fleshed out perspective of death of it as a character and the different elements of her and the different ways that she sort of plays her role. But uh, yeah, lot to chew on for sure. And it's the kind of thing that it's easiest to sort of chat about in the context of the comic because I don't want to have a larger conversation about
Yeah, well,
the
and
willingness embrace of death.
yeah, and that's one of the great things about stories like this is they let us look at all this stuff through like a lighter tone. Can you like you never catch me like reading some like philosophical tome about like what is the meaning of life, but throw it in a comic book, put a nice narrative around it, and it's a fun,
Yeah,
interesting thing to read.
there you go. That's how they get you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they trap you.
Uh,
They fooled you. Yeah, that's how they get everyone to read about Mouse and all these
Yeah.
other intense, heavy but important things is attach it to pretty pictures, some interesting art, and a strong narrative, and Bob's your uncle, you're off to the races.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you'd mentioned that Sandman came back.
Yes.
So is it still going on?
No. It was just like a short, like I want to say like 12 6-issue miniseries or something like that.
Okay.
But it was just a short little.
Neil
Yeah.
Gaiman needed a little bit of a monetary pop up.
Yeah.
So he kicked out a big mini run. Well, maybe not. Hopefully not. But uh, normally at the end of the discussion, I sort of ask about like what's the point of the story? And I think we sort of I mean the entire thing is that it is the point. I think that Neil Gaiman has a unique point of view. He saw this as a vehicle for sharing a story in a very that really puts the writer at the forefront, and he really just drives it all around. Um, and so, if anything, I would ask you, who would you recommend? I mean, it's so wildly popular, but do you think that this is a universally approachable comic, or like there still has to be age gating, and
Yeah.
like,
And universally, like it's pretty approachable to like the kind of person who would be reading like a comic book, which this is going to sound super like tautological here, but like if you're the kind of person who would look to read it, it's probably is the kind of thing that would be like good for you.
hmm, yeah, it's not the kind of thing that you would maybe throw at someone who isn't sort of in the sphere.
Yeah.
But that if you're curious about it, entertain that curiosity.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Because I was gonna say uh, I, I recently have a someone who has no exposure to comics and graphic novels asking about which of our episodes to listen to and what to read. And so now
Would
everything
that
I'm
be our
like,
father?
that would no. He has
Okay.
expressed no interest.
That is fair.
No, that would be a grandfather-in-law, and so
Uh,
then it's like I think about that through that point of view. If I'm coming in having read Persepolis and Batman Year One exclusively because of my grandson-in-law's recommendations, would I recommend him to read Death by Neil Gaiman? I don't. I don't think so.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. I think that's tossing someone into the deep end and feeding them
Yeah,
to the
that's
sharks. That's a sink or
but,
swim.
but to be fair, I
Um,
think it's like a different part of the pool. Like it's a different part of like it's a different kind of deep end.
that's true.
This isn't throwing them into like Civil War. We gotta add Civil War to every comic book. It's not something into like some part of comic books so that like you need to know who all these characters are.
Hmm.
That's not the problem with this one.
No, this
It's got
is.
other reasons. It's a deep end for a completely different reason.
Yeah, because I don't think everyone is going to willfully embrace a hard, difficult conversation of death being in their comics.
Yeah,
Nor should they. I think, especially if you're looking for escapism, this is not what.
yeah,
Because a lot of people do look for that, not just within comics, but just within media in general, is escapism. This is not going to be an escape. If anything, it is literally the exact opposite. Because death does remind us that it comes for everyone. So
yeah. That's a
it
very big point of all of these stories.
is the ultimate non-escapism graphic novel. Um, but yeah, I'd say those are just some reflections on uh Death by Neil Gaiman. It's the kind of thing I'll probably be sitting with for some time. And that there's a lot to think about, but those are just some of our surface level thoughts, reflections, comments on it. But again, if you want to join in the conversation, maybe there's a particular thing that stood out to you that you've read. I don't know. Find us on one of our many social media things. Jump in and let us know what's been on your mind. And so, moving into some less intense, less intense things. Spencer, what have you been enjoying to give yourself some relief this week? Is there any movies, TV shows, games, books that have stood out to you?
Honestly, like I've been was so busy with the anime revolution stuff. I've been barely
You've been
doing
barely
much.
doing anything.
Yeah, I watched the Harmony Korine classic Trash Humpers last night.
Okay. Well, this is
Yep.
this is our
Uh,
PG-18 episode.
yeah.
Is there a lot to really share about a film called Trash Humpers?
Well, I assume you don't know Harmony Korine.
I do not.
No, do you remember that movie Spring Breakers? It was like
I
a James
recognize the
Franco
name of it
movie with like a bunch of like former Disney stars in it.
vaguely.
Yeah, so he also made that one, and he makes like deliberately I think some critic put it like he either makes um art that looks like trash or trash that's pretending to be art, and honestly, I can never tell which one it is.
That's pretty funny and also very unfortunate. And so so you're not sure if this just sounds like straight trash is what you
Oh, it
watched.
is. It was like filmed on it's just like a bunch of guys, like a bunch of his friends wearing like bad old age masks, walking
Goofing
around,
around.
goofing around, and it's like all filmed on like VHS and like edited on VHS, like bad VHS too. So like scan lines show up all the time. It's
Wow.
it's something, and it's
It's
not
an
like I like other
experience.
Harmony Korine movies because like I thought Spring Breakers was pretty trash. Beach Bum is
Mhm.
not a good movie. Kids is apparently better, but I don't know.
Why do
Never
you
seen it.
keep watching these if you're not liking them?
Because they got to be artistic. I was kind of I had heard this movie was like I kind of assumed you know Pink Flamingos by John Waters.
I do actually
Yeah,
know that one.
yeah. I always had the idea that this was like a modern kind of take on Pink Flamingos, but no, no. Pink Flamingos is so much more said so much more in its trashiness.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, it, I'm not going to be going anywhere near any of that.
Don't. No one
Um,
should. It's the only thing I have that happened this week I can talk about.
well, I have more interesting things than that, at least, which is shocking because usually I'm the one that's behind on the media side of things. But
Yeah.
I have a couple of things. I mean, the because I finally finished Squid Game 2.
Uh,
I'll just note I finished Squid Game 2 and it's great. Squid Game's always great.
yeah.
Um, for some reason, the main thing that sticks with me is that it's like I just keep forgetting how brutal it's gonna be.
Oh
And
yeah.
that when we're talking about not pulling punches with Death by Neil Gaiman, there's the theme of death. Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
It's so endlessly ruthless. Boy, Squid Games, it's also impressively very separate from the first one. Like it's very different in terms of like the characters become less of the in the first one it felt like the characters and that cast of characters was the primary focus, whereas in the second one it's more about like the story and the sort of world building element, which they introduced like right away by introducing more of like learning about the employees and stuff. So
Yeah. And then
um
also I think the second and third season, the games are massively improved. Like the first season,
mm,
the games just kind of existed to be like competitions to like
mhm,
they didn't really add anything other than you win them or you lose them. Other than kind of
mhm.
the marble one, this one like
Ugh,
almost every game has like met like changes the dynamic,
social.
yeah, social, and like changes the dynamic of how the
Mhm.
characters deal with them and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the part that I did struggle with is the opportunity for Squid Game to end each time and they just keep not ending it. And it's
Yeah.
like like it's extremely frustrating to watch.
Yes. Yeah.
But I mean, you would kind of hope that I don't think that's how it would actually be, but let's hope
Yeah.
that we
Well,
never have to find out.
yeah.
Um, I also
Well,
finished The Bear, which I mean, it's
yeah.
what is that, season
I
4?
something like that. But also just back to Squid Game for a moment.
Oh
You
yeah,
gonna
you're
watch
like, don't get
you
away
gonna
from
watch the
Squid Game.
inevitable American spinoff?
Yeah, probably.
See, I don't want to, but I probably will as
It's
well.
never as good.
It's gonna be so much
It's
worse. It's
never
gonna be
as good.
so much worse.
100%. Hey,
Yeah.
this quickly reminds me of something that I meant to mention ages ago related to Dropout TV.
Yeah.
Uh, but this is like anyone who hasn't been following on like every episode is like, what is he talking about? But Dropout TV, separate streaming service. Why this ties in is that someone said it's the only successful iteration of British. What is that? British panel shows that's actually been done. Because British panel shows have been trying to be converted into American versions for ages and they never work. And this is the closest thing that they've done,
which was
which is Dropout. Because
oh
Dropout is a cast of comedians who come in on a rotating basis to do
right,
and it doesn't really matter what they're doing. The whole thing is that you're there for the personalities.
right, and like I'm not one of them, but I know a lot. Like, are you one of the people who watches literally everything on Dropout?
No, but certainly I'll watch something because of a certain comic
Yeah,
personality being on it.
because I know a large amount of the fan base watches literally everything that gets put out on Dropout.
Yeah. So I mean that's just what I thought was really interesting because like there's been like Taskmaster's been tried to be converted and it didn't work and like um I think like what else? I think like IQ and all of these different shows just don't work in the same way, which is
They tried to make an American Top Gear at one point.
there you go. Exactly. Yeah. There's these like trying to convert it, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll find out about Squid Game too. But
Mm.
uh, yeah, the only other thing I mean, there's two quick other things, which is the Bear season 4. It's more of the Bear. Uh, I don't have anything interesting to add there. But the exciting thing that I read this week that I want to briefly chat about was that I read something that I wasn't assigned, which is something that hasn't happened in decades, which is very exciting because I was in my local library and I saw Majora's Mask and the Link to the Past in graphic not in the manga, and I thought, I'll grab that, and I read it. Well, I read the Majora's Mask part willingly, just because I wanted something else to read because I
Yeah.
needed to find something a palate cleanser between reading Death, and so uh, Majora's Mask was my palate cleanser, and wow. If we're talking about complex, heady stories, Majora's Mask gets up there.
Yeah, well, Majora's
Um,
Mask's about like a group of people stuck in a perpetual time loop dying every 3 days.
well, that's not the. I mean, yes, but in the manga, he actually never has to use the Song of Time.
Yeah, I know.
He
I found that
uses
really
it
weird
once.
about that.
But yeah, he only has to use it once. Well, he's just really good at the game. He's speed running.
Yeah.
But no, it's the fact that he's like, there's all these heroes that have died and they leave their masks. And so the masks that he takes on are of all of these deceased
Right.
people. And so it's like very heavy and sad, like especially the Goron one, where it's like he goes back and this little kid's like, Uncle Goro, we were missing you. And it's like, and then he has to try and lie to deceive the kid and go off to save the job that he couldn't, the deceased Goron hero couldn't accomplish. It's like, this is way more intense than I remember. I always knew that the Majora's Mask story was sort of a different. The Legend of Zelda stories vary in their levels of intensity,
Yeah.
but Majora's Mask is sort of infamous for its complexity and sort of like additional, like not just a traditional story, but that it has a lot of different elements going on, which also get portrayed in the manga to the best of its ability as well. It does get very convoluted towards the end. But I mean, I think that's just sort of the element when it's clearly a story that needs to be told over a longer duration of time. But they jam it into one manga, they make it work. But
Yeah.
no, I was glad to have read Oracle of Ages and Seasons just to flag that the mangas can be good to me, good for me. And yeah, I enjoyed reading Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
I didn't read The Link to the Past. I didn't have the energy for it.
Yeah. Do you even remember anything about Link to the Past? You did play that game forever ago.
I don't, but I was like briefly skimming the pages and I was like, this looks like this is going to be an Oracle of Seasons all over again.
I haven't read that manga, so I can't tell you, but yeah, I don't know. Link to the Past, not like it's known for its story for the Zelda games, so I don't know.
There you go.
Maybe we'll do the Ocarina of Time. That
Is it
for
the time traveling island one? Is that Link to the Past? No,
that's Link's Awakening.
that's Link's Awakening. Okay.
Link to the Past was the one that was on Game Boy, the game with four swords.
And oh, I remember for
Yeah, yeah. For if anyone yelling at them, yeah, I know it was originally on the Super Nintendo, but I'm doing it for my brother's sake. This is the way he would remember it.
it's true. That is true. I also was shocked when I saw that Four Swords has a manga, and I thought Four Swords was just like written as, I thought that was just like a gimmick game, not like within Zelda canon.
No, no, they're all in canon.
So,
Sometime I can show you my Hyrule Historia, which has the breakdown of the Zelda games and how they all fit together. Because there's a
I,
timeline. There's a
I,
timeline spit at Ocarina of Time where three different plots happen. Like,
oh,
because in Ocarina of Time you go back in time at the end. So like the plot line where you killed Ganon as an adult and the plot line where you went back in time and stopped him as a kid are two separate timelines. And they have a third timeline where Link lost.
hmm,
Yeah.
interesting. This is also, to be clear, fully fan driven.
No. Oh no, this is official. 100%.
What?
Yeah.
Are you
Because that's what
serious?
I'm saying. The Hyrule Historia made it all official. It's official released Nintendo product.
As in they saw a fan doing it, they're like, ah, sure.
Well, because the Zelda timeline was like a joke from like 2010 or from like 2000 to, I don't know, 2008 or something like that.
Yeah, which is the last time I intersected with this. I didn't realize they made it real.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is Wind Waker included in some capacity? Because I
Of course,
remember
because
that that was
that's the big thing.
the
Because Twilight Princess and Wind Waker contradict each other because
yeah.
they're both sequels to Ocarina of Time, but don't fit into each other at all. So that's why the split timeline thing has to work.
Whoa. Okay. Well, yeah, send that to me. Now I'm extremely curious.
Yeah. So do
Uh,
you remember that old Brian David Gilbert video about the Zelda timeline?
no.
Okay. Have you ever watch Unraveled with Brian David Gilbert?
No.
Oh, wow, you're missing out. That's something to watch sometime.
Okay. Noted.
He's on Dropout now, so
Oh, there you go. It
yeah,
all ties back. It all ties
exactly.
back in together. Uh, there you go. More things to watch. More things to read.
Yeah.
The world is expanding. I still can't get over. That's so funny to me that that's just one of those plot lines that I was aware of originally with the multiple like the Zelda timelines, but that it was a fan theory and that like since I last checked in, it was became official.
Yeah. Well,
Is
I checked in 15 years ago. It became official, but yeah.
I didn't. Well, this is like wild to me. Had assumed it would just be like eternally, just like
Oh yeah.
hypothetical.
Fair. It's like people trying to figure out the Donkey Kong timeline right now. Because Pauline's a child in the new Donkey Kong game. So how does that fit in with her being an adult in the original Donkey Kong?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That one's 100% like Nintendo would like slap the books out of your hands and call you a nerd for trying to figure that one out. But
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Try and figure out our like main story focus, but try and figure out Donkey Kong's critical story. That was pretty funny. All right. So I would say at this point, we're now just winding down towards the end of the episode. But of course, we need to introduce what's next on the reading docket. So, Spence, what do the fine folks at home and I get to look forward to reading next?
yeah, well, I figure, you know what? Let's not cut the amount of death we say happens, but let's make it way lighter. We're going to be reading Killer Shark in Another World.
Killer Shark in Another World. This is a
Yes.
manga?
This is a manga. It's about
Wait, you said it's also philosophical. Is
no,
that
it's not
what you just
philosophical at
said?
all. I just said there's a whole lot of people are going to die in this.
Oh no.
Well, it's about a
Okay.
killer shark in another world.
A
It's
killer
about
shark.
a summoner has to summon her familiar, and she ends up with the personification of like our world's sharks, like shark media.
Okay, okay. Is this a long running series? Is this a
Oh,
one off? What is this?
it's like up to English releases up to 4 volumes, and like set up to 7 has already been like announced for release.
Oh my God. Okay. So this is volume one of
Yeah,
Killer
volume
Shark in
one, Killer
Another
Shark in Another
World.
World.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, never mind your bat familiar, your talking frog. You're summoning just a full aquatic predator.
Yeah.
All right. Intriguing. Fully out of left field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Death very much the theme of the episode between the graphic novel, Squid Game, Majora's Mask, and now Killer Shark in Another World. There's really a through line to this one. And so, of course, if you're interested in also reading along with Killer Shark in Another World, Volume 1, you can order that at VesperiaComics.com or pick it up at Vesperia Manga and Comics if you're in the lower lane. If you're in the lower mainland of beautiful British Columbia, or Spence also does Canada-wide shipping. So, of course, we realize that buying a new book every 2 weeks isn't always financially viable for everyone, so consider inviting a friend to split costs or borrowing the book from a friend or a local library if it's available. And that's it for episode 15 of the Long Comics Book Club. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow our Blue Sky and Instagram for updates, as well as join us to share your own thoughts on Death by Neil Gaiman. Yeah, the humor of it's gone for me. Or Killer Shark in Another World in advance of the August 30th podcast. And we will talk to you then. Bye bye.
See ya.